Hey all, Pi here, and we are back in our life, beginnings and always, and we were about to launch into the rest of the moments. I don't think I'm gonna finish all the moments today, because they're getting longer, but we will see what we get through. Early one afternoon, you found yourself in the living room with your family. It was another one of those summer days where it felt too hot to go outside, but it was too uncomfortable to do anything inside either. I hate those days. The air conditioner was cranked up as far as you could negotiate it, but everyone was still being pretty lazy. You, your moms, and sister were lounging around while the TV blared on in the background, ignored by all of you. You specifically were sitting cross-legged on the floor. That was my battle stance. You looked out the windows at the backyard. Not that there was anything of particular interest to watch. Elizabeth broke the silence with a loud groan. You glanced over. She was lying on her back over the couch, massaging her calf with one hand. Ugh, I feel terrible. I'm dying in this house and my legs hurt. Why do your legs hurt? What did you do? Mom looked up from the magazine she'd barely been flipping through and frowned, concerned. Could you have strained them somehow? Elizabeth flailed briefly, then flopped onto her side with a heavy sigh. I don't know, it just hurts.
Sweetie.
Oh, sweetheart. Ma got up from her seat at the kitchen table and walked over to your sister. She did a light pat on Elizabeth's shoulder sympathetically. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. Maybe it's growing pains? You could be taller by next fall. Elizabeth scoffed. She didn't look impressed by Ma's assessment. I'd rather be my height forever than deal with this. You know? Yeah, if it were an option, no pain would be better. Mom walked over too, leaning against the back of the couch. Kids, they grow up so fast. Soon Elizabeth will have a home of her own, maybe even with a nice husband and some kids if she feels like it. She sniffed loudly and wiped at her eye, but you could tell that it was just a bit. You tilted your head. Even though you knew Elizabeth liked guys, it was hard to imagine her with a boyfriend or husband. She only seemed invested in hanging out with her group of friends, not chasing after boys. Mom must agree with you, because she shook her head.
No.
Let's not exaggerate. She's still practically a child. But if you ever do pursue romance, Elizabeth, you can talk to me about it. Definitely. We're always willing to lend an ear. Elizabeth's features contorted in disgust. Ew, talking to my mothers about boys? No.
No.
No way, I'm not talking to my moms about that. Yes. Mom's jaw dropped and she gasped in an exaggerated display of shock. Her hands came up to rest against her chest. Ma only grinned. She didn't look offended by Elizabeth's quick response at all. It really wouldn't be so bad to come to us. I know what it's like to have a crush on a pretty boy or two. I don't, but I can listen anyway. Good mom. Mom snorted at her own joke while Ma burst into giggles. They were having a little too much fun at Elizabeth's expense. Elizabeth certainly wasn't feeling the amusement because she rolled her eyes and sat up.
Thanks.
I'm going back to my room. I'd rather melt alone, thanks. So much angst and sass. She strode off towards the staircase, taking the steps two at a time. Your mom stared after her, then turned to each other with raised eyebrows. Oops. Looks like we scared her off with all that romance talk.
Well?
Oh well, we'll get her next time. You watched them titter with some surprise. Obviously, your moms liked women, but you had no idea that Ma liked guys too. Today was the first time you heard her say something like that. Discoveries. Wait, you've had crushes on guys? Since when? Ma turned to you, happy to bring you into things now that you'd spoken up. She smiled and nodded. Always. I like both. But I like your mom most out of everyone. She's special. Aww. Ma's smile turned all soft in the corners like it usually did when she looked at her. She pinched Mom's cheek lightly. Aww, they're cute. I like them. I ship. 10 out of 10. Would ship again. Mom reached up to cup a hand over Ma's. Even when Ma stopped pulling her cheek, their hands remained clasped together.
You're fantastic.
Thanks, Lanny. I think Laney? I will never pronounce her name right. I am so sorry. I think most women have charm, but no one can hold a candle to you. Aww. Aw, Pamela. Ma beamed, then kissed Mom on the cheek. She'd been pinching there. On the peak she'd been pinching before. You thought the moment was very sweet. You smiled to yourself at the sight. No matter how often your moms expressed their feelings for each other, it was always nice to witness it. Ma looked back to you, letting Mom's hand go with a brief squeeze. She settled down next to you, and Mom followed soon after. You know, I'm also here to listen to you whenever you're ready. That offer isn't just for Elizabeth. In fact, I think that talk might be needed sooner for you. After all, you already have someone, isn't that right? Mom shook her head and elbowed Ma, but it was futile. Meddler. You blushed fiercely. Ma only giggled and smiled, not looking the least bit apologetic. There's no rush, of course. You can take all the time you need to figure out what or who you want.
It's okay.
Don't think you have to stick with whatever you come up with right now, either. Life's nice like that. It can change and you can learn. Mom nodded her agreement. The two of us are happy to hear you out, and we may be able to relate better than you think. Still, we won't push the topic. At least most of the time. She gave Ma the weakest scathing look possible while being unable to stop grinning. You nodded silently. You weren't sure what to say to that. Mom let out another exaggerated sniffle. It didn't take a genius to realize it was fake. First Elizabeth and now you, Joy? Do you have to grow up? Yes. Children tend to do that from time to time. I love these two. Your parents quickly grew absorbed in their conversation about rearing kids. You took that as your cue to leave, getting up so you could spend some time alone in your room, too. They let you go without problem, so you made your way up the stairs. You let out a sigh once you stepped into your room. It was just as sweltering in there as it was in the living room, possibly even a little warmer. Yeah, it was probably a bad idea going upstairs to cool down. You couldn't even open your window since it was hotter outside, and you just let the AC out. Oof. You dragged your feet as you crossed the room. You checked your current sweltering condition in the mirror as you passed by it. You thought back to the conversation you'd had downstairs about growing up and all that. After a moment, you stepped a bit closer to the mirror. You stared into it, then turned away from the surface to look down at yourself. You were definitely growing alright. It was weird thinking about how you were now in comparison to what you'd been when you were younger. When it came to your body, I was a chubby child, so poor Joy will also be chubby. You shifted to the side, your head still facing forward and continuing the self-evaluation from this viewpoint. I wasn't expecting to get this level of... Okay. Let's go with female. You were born as impacted... What? I can't. Let me try again. What you were born as impacted the way your body grew, but it wasn't what really determined who you were. When it came to your figure, your chest was flat now, but that would likely change at least a little as you got even older. You tried to imagine what your adult self might be like. Your fingers brushed over your cheeks as you stared at the freckles dusting your features. It was as if they had quadrupled in the summertime with all the extra sun. Yep, that's how that works. You took a step backwards, finished with your impromptu inspection. You locked eyes with your reflection, cocking your head to the side. All things considered, you were self-conscious. It took you a moment to realize that you were frowning at yourself. You glanced away from the mirror. You shook your head roughly, putting thoughts of what you were turning into out of your mind. This wasn't the time to focus on such things. You had to find something to do in this heat. You shuffled over to your bed, collapsing onto the mattress. Your brows scrunched up in thought. Time passed slowly, and to your annoyance, possible ideas about what to do were few and far between. You weren't sure how long it had been, but eventually you heard your mom call you from downstairs. Joy! There's a call for you. Cove wants to come over. Is that alright? Yes! Let him over! More time with Cove, please. You perked up at the words, sitting up in bed. You yelled back to her immediately. Yeah! Not even an option, just yes! You got to your feet and headed downstairs, eager to see your friend. You needed to go downstairs soon anyway, because your empty stomach told you it was almost time for lunch. Just as you reached the bottom of the stairs, you saw Mom put the phone back on the receiver. She glanced at Ma, leaning her hip against the kitchen counter.
What a pickle.
Well, here comes trouble. We better prepare ourselves. Ma clicked her tongue and cleared disapproval of Mom's words. He's such a good boy. Cove never wants to cause trouble. He can just be a bit thoughtless and impulsive. Yeah, I know a few people like that. Oh, I know. He's very sweet, but that's what makes it more of a problem. If a stranger or some kid from school was egging Joy on to behave badly, I think we can both agree that they'd do the right thing in the end. But if Cove Holden got into a reckless mood and wanted Joy to be part of the ride, can we really be certain of what call they'd make then?
Sweet dreams.
Yes, I think so. Joy helps Cove settle down. He would have gotten himself in even more trouble without them.
Thanks.
You have a point. Ma just laughed. As she turned away, still snorting, her eyes met yours. She blinked in surprise, then waved at you with an easy grin. Mom looked over, noticing you at the foot of the stairs as well. Oh, I didn't expect you to come down already, Joy. I just wanted to let you know what was happening. Ooh. Should I call her out? I want to. I really want to. You called Mom out on her comment. Well, if I hadn't come now, then I wouldn't have heard everything you said.
Pam.
Oh, you caught us, Pam. You got caught, Pam. Blah, 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 blah.
What?
What? You were saying things too? I didn't say anything I wouldn't have told to Joy directly. Oh, you're unbelievable. You shook your head at your parents, even as you fought a blush when you remembered just what they'd been discussing. Alright, you got me. I'm sorry for being gossipy and saying that about your friend. I can't be bad too.
Let's go.
We'll get out of your way now. Mom sighed in mock defeat and made her way down the hall. Ma followed after her with a hushed giggle. Now you were alone in the living room, tasked with waiting for Cove. After that, it was just fine. After that was just fine with you. If it hadn't been so hot outside, you would have visited him at his house a long time ago. You took a seat at the kitchen counter and settled in for the wait. As expected, there was a knock on the door a few minutes later. When you got up and answered it, your neighbor was standing on the other side. He came in once you stepped aside to let him pass, giving a little wave. You greeted him as you typically did. With a hug. Hugs are good. Hugs are life. He stiffened in your arms and relaxed a second after. One would think he'd be used to your hugs after all these years. I am a hugger in real life. Like, if I ever do, like, one of those meet the creator type deals, there will be hugs. There will be hugs for everyone. Hey. Aww. His voice was cracked as he struggled to say something. You didn't feel worried about that. It was how he usually reacted when you were close by. So cute! Ah! Cove sighed and wiped at his face a bit. You noted the sheen of sweat across his brow. He must be glad to be back in the air-conditioned place, even if he only had to walk across the street to get there. So, what's with the sudden visit? I don't want to do anything. Not when it's like this. Oh, excuse me. He gestured vaguely to the humid air hanging around.
So...
I thought I could at least do nothing with you. Aww. Smooth. He thought that was really sweet. His words were nice and expressed real fondness for you in a strange sort of way, which was usually the case with Cove. Have you had lunch yet? I was gonna do it soon. He shook his head.
Not really.
I haven't really felt like eating because of the heat. I probably should have lunch. I didn't have breakfast this morning. Cove. Bad. Eat. You didn't eat at all? Then you gotta have something now. You urged Cove in the direction of the kitchen. He stumbled after you. Honestly, this is me and the wife all the time. Constantly just like, food, eat. Okay. As one, you headed into the kitchen. You crossed your arms as you glanced around, wondering what you should scrounge up for a meal. I don't want to eat anything that's warmed up. Is there something cold or not cooked? Yeah. After a bit of back and forth, the two of you concluded that you should raid the fridge and cabinet in order to make sandwiches. Nice. With that settled, you had planned to decide on the outside layer first. There was a wide variety to choose from, since everyone in your house had their own favorites. There was white bread, wheat bread, sourdough, mixed grain, gluten-free, and pita pockets. Dang, I want to live in this house! Could you take the grain one for me? Sure. You reached for the mixed grains, then made your decision. Sourdough! Sourdough is best. You pulled out the sourdough too, setting both items onto the counter. Then you had to Then you had to decide what main direction the sandwich would go in. What the heck is a sweeter style of sandwich? You wanted to make a truly savory style of sandwich. Something savory would make it feel like a real meal. As for the specific ingredients... Oh my! Okay, gotta have ham. Ham is good. Lettuce is good. Not a big fan of tomatoes or onions on my sandwiches, honestly. Ooh, pickles. Pickles are good. Cheddar is good. And then you moved on to condiments. For the finishing touch, you intended to top your sandwich with... mustard! And that's it. People who put mayonnaise on your sandwiches, you're disgusting. I just want to let you know that. I'm just kidding. But seriously, though. Anyway, you nodded to yourself with a quiet hum, satisfied. The two of you bustled around the kitchen, opening and closing things in order to collect everything you needed for your individual sandwiches. You focused intently on assembling your own, for the most part. When you were close to being done, though, you glanced over at your neighbor. Cove was putting his sandwich together delicately, his brow furrowed and tongue sticking out just barely. That's adorable! Ah! There were open jars of peanut butter and honey near his plate, as well as a banana peel. Ooh. So he's making a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich on mixed grain bread. That sounds really good, actually. Maybe that's what they meant by a sweet. That's probably what they meant by sweet. Okay, I'm down with that. That sounded great. Yeah. I'd eat that. Maybe you'd have one yourself a different time. Curiosity satiated, you turned back to your plate and finished your own creation. By the time you were done, Cove had already cleaned up his workstation. He turned to face you, studying your sandwich briefly. A small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. You guessed it didn't look inedible, to him at least. Done? Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. He waited as you quickly returned the ingredients and cleaned a few utensils. Then the two of you collected your respective plates. You both agreed on heading upstairs to hang out in your room. We're allowed to eat in our room? Dude! Alright, everybody who had a house rule that they could not ever eat either upstairs or in your room, depending on how your house layout was, like leave a comment down below. I want to know what the ratio is in my viewership, because, like, that was a hard rule for me in my household until I got older, at least. Yeah, no. That's... You and Cove entered your bedroom while balancing your food on the plates. Nothing fell, so it was a successful trip. Yeah. Cove took a seat on the ground, stretching out on the hardwood floor in an attempt to keep a bit cooler. He immediately took a big bite of his sandwich, chewed, then hummed happily. Aw. The sandwich is really good. At least that's something. Ooh, excuse me. At this point, you sat down and started on your own sandwich. He nodded. You were enjoying yours too. Obviously, you were a pro at making sandwiches. He leaned back on his hands while chewing and glancing around. His every movement was sluggish. Want to do something? It seemed the plan of not doing anything at all had already worn thin, despite his lack of enthusiasm. Like what? He rolled his head back, looking up the ceiling. What about Hangman? You laughed at the suggestion, but went along with it. You put your plate to the side and pulled out some markers and scrap paper. As you laid everything on the floor, he scooted back to make more room in front of you. Cove picked up one of the markers with his right hand while keeping a half slice of sandwich in his left. Multitasker. Can I pick the phrase? Okay. I want to guess first anyway. He smiled briefly before he bent over the paper and began sketching the hangman frame. Then he stopped, pursing his lips in thought. He tapped the end of his marker against his cheek. You watched silently as Cove looked down at the paper, but... let me try that again. You watched silently as Cove looked down at the paper, up at your face, and then off to the side in a loop. His marker kept tapping his cheek the entire time. He raised an eyebrow. He had suggested the game and wanted to pick the phrase, but it looked like he didn't actually have anything in mind for it. Clearly, he did not think this through. Finally, he put empty lines on the paper to signify spots for letters. Alright, you can start guessing. You peered over. His secret phrase consisted of 3 words. Excuse me. The first 2 had 3 letters, and the last had 4. You thought hard about what your first guess would be. Enter 1 letter of the alphabet. Oh no, we're actually playing Hangman! Ah! I suck at this. Always go with A first. Yeah? Enter. Oh, hey! E? Oh, you got one. Okay. After the first round, you were about to take another bite of your sandwich when a thought occurred to you. I wonder if anyone turned off the TV downstairs. The TV. It was on earlier, but no one was really watching. Then everyone started leaving the living room. I know I didn't turn it off. It might still be on downstairs with no one there. Cove smiled crookedly at that.
Oh.
Poor show, playing with no one around to enjoy it. What was it? You squinted off into the middle distance trying to recall the show's name. I feel like it was some kind of crime-solving drama. That narrows it down. Cove nodded sleepily. His eyes closed, then opened again with some effort. Can you give any specifics? Maybe I can guess it. Well... You rested your chin on your open palm, groggily thinking as hard as you could. I remember there was a woman with long blonde hair, I think? She was the one solving crimes, like, as a detective or something. I'm not familiar with that one. There were scenes in a police station, because someone got arrested? You lapsed into silence, the both of you thoughtful. Then Cove chuckled. It wasn't that funny, but you joined in the laughter anyway.
I don't know.
I don't know what that is. Fair response. Me neither. And I just saw it. Dang it. We're here again. Alright, E. Bum 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 bum. Good guess. Another round came and went, and Cove grumbled as he readjusted himself. His features were twisted in a grimace. I feel so sticky. Ugh, I'm gonna be stuck to this floor forever now. That's fine. Looks like we'll both be stuck here forever then. I'm sticky too.
You're right.
Even when we're gray and old, we'll still be right here. Yep, we have to accept our fate. You giggled under your breath at such a bizarre scenario. Cove cracked a smile as well. Then you returned to the game. It's gonna make me play through it. Ah! Oh. Yep, that's right. It's you are something. Cove spoke up once more, catching your attention. He was peering down at the piece of paper between you, his expression thoughtful. You know, Hangman is kind of a creepy game. Why do people come up with it? Why did they play it? You know, Cove, there's a lot of games that we played as children that are freaking messed up. I've always wondered about that. The two of you fell silent as you tried to puzzle out a logical answer. Eventually you decided to just return to the game. You? Ooh, that's another one. By this point, Cove had finished his sandwich. Yours was almost gone, too. But now you were getting thirsty. You brought it up to your neighbor. Should we go downstairs to get some drinks? I think I know what it is. I was thinking that too, but I don't really want to get up. Me neither. You looked over at him, narrowing your eyes with false suspicion. But hey, what happened to you not being able to get up ever again because you were stuck to the floor? That's still true. I mean, we're not actually going, are we? I only thought about it. You rolled your eyes and dropped the issue defeated. Cove grinned a little at your disappointment over his victory. These two are cute. You're really close. Yeah? You're definitely gonna get it. You are cute. That was the phrase that Cove had spent so long settling on. You stared at it. A few correct letters in, you had a feeling you knew what the phrase was. Still, you felt butterflies in your stomach at seeing it clear as day on the paper. I wonder what would have happened if I'd gotten some letters wrong. I feel like I'll have to replay this sometime and purposefully get them wrong just to see. You took in the words for a moment longer. Then you looked up at Cove. Oh! He had trouble meeting your shocked gaze, a smile settling awkwardly on his lips. His next words left him in a mumble.
I mean...
It was all I could think of at the time. I'm gonna try to stop screeching and say, you wrapped your arms around him. It was instinct. You leaned over and wrapped your arms around him in a hug. IRL, I'm just squeaking, so maybe I should say just squeak. You know what? Yep, you just let out a small squeak. Cove smiled a bit more, clearly still feeling awkward about the move he pulled. He turned away from you, his cheeks tinted pink. That's adorable! A moment passed between the two of you. Now would be the perfect time to change the subject, but you didn't. He didn't either. Things started feeling a bit more personal all of a sudden. You looked into Cove's ocean eyes and saw yourself staring back. I really think you're cute. Seriously. Cove's features softened at your words, but he remained serious. Thanks. I meant it too. Finally, he broke the eye contact. Ah! I've heard at some point you're supposed to start liking types of people, guys or girls or whatever.
I don't know.
I haven't really noticed that yet. Nothing's changed, not in a big way, not for everybody. Maybe I have to grow up more, but at least with... You waited, but he trailed off. He wasn't going to keep talking. Ah! You pouted. You wanted him to finish his thought. At least what? You shook off the strangeness of the situation and tried to be supportive. Maybe you just don't like anybody. Or maybe you like all types of people. That's normal too. Cove seemed to appreciate that thought, if the smile that appeared on his lips was any indication. But the expression was quick to disappear. He peered over at you, looking nervous. Okay, what about you? What kind of guy or person do you like? He winced and seemed to be mentally kicking himself for saying it like that. You considered his question carefully. Did you know who or what you liked? There was only one person you'd ever had those kinds of feelings for. And for those wondering, yes, this was kind of my experience too. There was only one person you'd ever had romantic feelings for. But specifically, when it came to how you felt towards boys, you generally weren't interested in guys, but there were special exceptions. And how you felt towards girls, you generally weren't interested in girls, but there were special exceptions. For people who aren't exclusively male or female, you generally weren't interested in someone who's non-binary, but there were special exceptions. You returned your attention to Cove. He was waiting patiently for your response. You explained how you felt to Cove. He listened intently, taking in every word as you tried to convey how you felt. He definitely perked up a bit when you mentioned having some interest in romantic relationships. It was nice to have people who supported you when it came to who you liked. Uh-huh. And you knew he accepted you for who you were, too. He'd never treated you differently because of your identity. Then he scratched the back of his head, sheepish. I'm not really sure how we ended up talking about all this when we started out just playing hangman. You know what you did. But it was good, I think. I think so, too. Cove chuckled a little bashfully. He glanced around, clearly scrambling for something else to say. So, have you read any new books recently? Oh, yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot to tell you. The conversation took a lighter turn after that, and it felt like you got closer that afternoon. Finally, the blazing sun began to set. To your relief, the air cooled down a bit as a result. You pulled yourself off the floor, as did Cove, with some minor complaint. You both stretched your arms, groaning, and yawned into your hands. You glanced out your window briefly, taking in the soft reds and pinks and purples of the late afternoon sky. Somehow, you had made it through the scorching hot day in one piece. Cove turned towards you, motioning towards your window with his chin. Want to go outside? It might be better out there than it... Excuse me. Want to go outside? It might be better out there than it is here now. Let's do it! I'm sick and tired of being cooped up inside all day. The two of you took your time heading downstairs. You stopped briefly to grab a drink of water, then continued on your way. You stepped outside, one after the other, your destination being the familiar hills behind your house. This time of day it was quiet outside. The flowers blew gently in the wind, petals trembling but stubbornly hanging in there. You felt the breeze cool your heated skin and you relaxed your shoulders. Cove closed his eyes, releasing a deep breath. I really love it out here. Your opinion sure has changed since you were first on this hill. Cove chuckled, not even attempting to deny your words. A beat passed, but his gaze didn't stray from your own. His voice was impossibly soft when he spoke up again.
Joy.
I'm glad I met you, Joy. You're really important to me, you know. I feel the same. Your voice came out equally delicate. From the way his features brightened, though, you knew he heard you. Then Cove reached over and held your hand without another word. Sorry. Even as the sun disappeared completely and the sky darkened, you and Cove remained side by side for as long as you possibly could. That was so cute! And even though this episode is going to be short, I really don't have time for another moment, I think. So, we will get to the next one in the next episode, which will be up in 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.